Ricky Ponting is about to make a bowling change. Yup, it's Shane Warne who's coming on to bowl his first ball of the innings. He'll bowl in tandem with Brett Lee. Now that's a useful combination for the Australians. Spin at one end and speed at the other as they look to make the breakthrough.
This is Andrew Strauss.
Warne is switching to round the wicket. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Warne will be trying to bowl into the rough. That has to be close. Not out. There's never a chance the umpire would give that out. Warne will be aiming for that rough stuff. That was a no ball by Warne. There's the umpire signal. No ball. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. That was a no ball by Warne.
Oh, that's a frustration for the bowler. Another no ball. I think he's just trying too hard.
He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That was a no ball by Warne. There's the umpire signal. No ball. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Brilliantly caught.
Look at them out there. That's got the bowler's tails up.
Warne gets his first wicket. This was how the wicket fell.
And taking guard now is Michael Vaughan.
He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Oh, big shout for that one. Gone.
There is no way back after that. That is out.
Warne gets his second wicket. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Warne will be aiming for that rough patch. That was a no ball by Warne.
Now the bowler's giving him a hard time out there. That will have hurt. He won't want to show that it's hurt. You sense the momentum changing.
He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. That struck him in front. Loud appeal. He's given him.
Not a difficult decision for the umpire to make. That is out. Here's Marcus Trescothick.
It really is raining quite hard out there. The covers could be on for quite a time.
This is exactly the scene that every cricketer... Well, here come the umpires and the players too for the start of the day's play. They're all looking pretty refreshed. It must have been a decent night's sleep. Let's get back into the action and say good morning to Richie Back.
Ooh, that looked quite nasty. He's worked that into the gap. The sweeper picks up. Trescothick has moved into the 20s and is starting to look far more relaxed.
Kevin Peterson takes guard.
Warne is switching to round the wicket. He'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Played into the gap. It's just one there. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Should be some runs here.
Earlier in the game, we saw just how much of a danger he can be when he gets just a bit of spin.
They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Hit straight to a fielder. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He's got it into the gap. Fielder's appeal, but he was quite comfortably home. There's 2 more runs on the board. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Stopped in the covers. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Stopped in the covers. Just one there. Lee is coming around the wicket. Stopped in the covers.
Run of the troops. So right about now, Rasta you teach I the truth. Yo! When we say love, when we say love, when we say love, we mean unconditional love. When we say love, when we say love, when we say love.
Australia have changed their field. Warne is going to try over the wicket. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Warne, they'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Warne, he'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Be trying to bowl into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff.
Well, that's hurt. And you can see that that's hurt him. They don't want to show it, the batsman, but I reckon the bruise will come up. He's just got to get on with it. Rub it and get on with it.
They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Lee is coming around the wicket. Lee is going to try over the wicket. Done him.
But he can't miss straight balls, not at this level. That is as comprehensive an end as you'll see.
Lee gets his first wicket.
Here's Andrew Flintoff.
Lee is coming around the wicket. Play it away with comfort. Lee is going to try over the wicket. A very good over. Only one off it in the end. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Warne will be trying to bowl into the rough. Hit straight to a fielder. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Warne will be trying to bowl into the rough. I'm not sure if he'll be able to continue. He looks to be in some pain. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That's found the gap in the field.
Oh, that's got the treatment, and you got to say it deserved it.
Lee is going to try over the wicket. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Just one run. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Stopped in the covers. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Stopped in the covers. Warne will be trying to pitch the ball into the rough.
Nice start. That'll settle him down.
4 runs to Flintoff. Warne will be trying to bowl into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. It's straight to a fielder. Warne will be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. That was the googly. Lee is coming around the wicket.
He does score a lot of runs through the covers. He's an excellent placer.
Australia have changed their field. Lee is coming around the wicket. Stopped in the covers. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Lee is coming around the wicket. Warne is going to try over the wicket. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Warne will be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Turn that into 2, that's good running. Ponting will be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. It's straight to a fielder. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Warne will be aiming for that rough patch. He's got it into the gap. Warne will be aiming for that rough patch. Stopped in the covers. Lee is going to try over the wicket. Stopped in the covers. Lee is going to try over the wicket. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Stopped in the covers. Just one run. Lee is switching to round the wicket. He's worked that into the gap. Peterson moves into double figures with those runs. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Just one run. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Australia, he'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Warne, they'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Ouch, that must have hurt. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Lee is switching to round the wicket. Lee is going to try over the wicket. Steered expertly into the gap. Lee is going to try over the wicket. Comprehensively bowled.
Well bowled, very well bowled, straight and full when it mattered.
Lee gets his second wicket.
This really has been a fine spell, as good as you'll see of its type, and well deserving that wicket haul.
This was how the wicket fell.